Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It is currently 23 degrees, high of around 26, and it's going to be a cloudy one today with little chance of precipitation, up to, I don't know, 10% chance, it said. So, another gray day like yesterday. So, we are in a study of the book of Judges, and we're just walking through it verse by verse. And so, we're in chapter 2, and Joshua had died, and the people, without his leadership, and the elders, Joshua and the elders who were with him, so the leadership of Israel, of God's chosen people, um, of the assembly, they they die, and the next generation don't know what God has done, and so they start going after other gods. They abandon the Lord and the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. And they went after other gods. That's verse 12. Okay, Dan. So, what's God do? He raises up judges. Okay, now judges are appointed by God. They're tribesmen. Okay, so they're from the assembly. They're from the chosen people, um, and they're put there in the midst of the burden of Israel's apostate and oppressed nature, or not name, maybe state, oppressed state. I guess it is their nature to turn to false gods. So in their oppressed and apostate nature, and it's to act as a lawgiver. Okay, act as a lawgiver, or to rule or govern, even litigate. Uh, it's a law term, and so when he did that, it says, who saved them out of the hand of those who plundered them. Okay, the Lord raised up judges who saved them out of the hand of those who plundered them. Now, don't get it, don't get it twisted here. It's not the judge who saved. Okay, God appointed the judge who saved. So it's actually God who saves. Okay, it's God who saves. And then it says in verse 17, yet they did not listen. And I put a little note here. Choice? Is there a choice not to listen? Do we have a choice to um, slide away or backslide or turn our backs on God? We can. We can. Yet they would not listen to their judges, for they whored after other gods. And that word zana, whore, or whoring, it's straight up to commit fornication. Okay, to commit fornication, to go sleep around. Matter of fact, they're so they hoard after. That means they would rather, instead of have their God, the God who loves them, who chose them, who freed them, who brought them up out of slavery, um, who saves them out of the hand of those who plunder them. That same God, they would rather go pay another to plunder them. Come on, man. What sense does that make? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Why would I sell myself for a false god, for the Baals, for the Ashereth, for the fertility of the world, and just sell myself for that, when I can have the loving, just, righteous God at any time. Okay, He's always there. And bowed down to them. They soon turned aside from the way in which their fathers had walked, who obeyed the commandments of the Lord, and they did not do so. And they did not do so. So whenever the Lord raised them up, raised up judges for them, the Lord was with the judge and saved them from the. Now notice, and saved them. It's the Lord though. The Lord is the subject of this, right? The judge is in this case, he's the accusative subject, all right? But the one who's actually doing it is the Lord. It's not the judge. They're instruments of the Lord, okay? Um, and then verse 19, whenever the judge died, they turned back and were more corrupt than their fathers. You know, if you look at generational sin, okay, you look at generational sin, the next generation, we tend to one up the previous one. Yes, it's still the same seeds and the same root, I guess, sure, right? But it just follows it along, and we amp it up. We got to do it better. We got to sin better, right? We got to sin better. Um, but without repenting, that's what happens. Okay, sin just grows. It doesn't shrink. You repent, and it can be pushed out, right? It can be completely and utterly destroyed, okay? But it doesn't shrink, right? It just grows. It's got an appetite for death, okay? It's got an appetite for death. You may be able to, um, and you can't. I was gonna say it might be able to lie dormant, but that's not the case either. It's there. It's alive. It's active, and it wants to eat and destroy and kill. That's what sin does. Satan's active. He's not a passive enemy. All right. He's always at war with us. But look what happens. Look what happens. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. That's verse 20. And he says, why? And he said, now this is God speaking now, because this people have transgressed against my covenant, and I commanded their fathers and have not obeyed my voice. That I have commanded their fathers and I have not obeyed my voice. They they do not hear, or they hear it but they disregard it. Okay, it's active um, an active apostasy. All right, it's not like um, they don't hear God's voice. They hear it. They just don't obey. And that's like, my 5-year-old. I say, all right, you know, go sit and wait for me, and they start jumping around and getting into everything and tearing up the house. And I'm like, come on, man, we're getting ready to leave. Like, just sit down for a second so I can, get whatever. Hey, hear my voice, but do the opposite. All right, that's what's happening. Doesn't that drive you up a wall, by the way? And then it says, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations that Joshua left when he died. So God's just, all right, you not want to hear my voice? I'm no longer going to drive out the enemy. You're on your own. Matter of fact, it's okay. You go ahead and sell yourself to them. You start worshiping with them. You start worshiping their idols. You start worshiping their gods. Go ahead. And then look why. Verse 22. In order to test Israel by them. In order to test Israel by them. Who's them? Okay? Them, right? Them is those that were left there. Those that were left there by Joshua. The nations that Joshua left when he died. That's who, those that were not completely and utterly destroyed. Okay? Remember Deuteronomy 20. Deuteronomy 20, 17, and 18. Okay? And that's the purpose. That's the purpose. To test them. And really, it's the behavior test. Are we going to walk? Are we going to walk with God, or are we just going to pay him lip service? Okay? Are we going to walk with God or just pay him lip service? Right? Remember the question about how they sacrificed in chapter 2, verse 4 and 5, and verse 5, right? And they called on the name of the Lord at the place of Bashim, and they sacrificed there to the Lord, okay? And they sacrificed there to the Lord, but is it just lip service? All right, are we mad we got caught? Are we mad we have to give up the idols? Or are we mad or sad or grieved or indignant because we sinned against God? That's the difference. So they left those nations, not driving them out quickly, and he did not drive them into the hand of Joshua. So the Lord left those nations, not driving them out quickly. Why? Right? And it's deeper than just to be tested. Okay, the test is, yes, it's the test. But if they weren't there now, if they weren't there, we wouldn't know the Lord. Right? And that's, remember, it said they did not know what God had done. The next generation didn't know what God had done for them. Okay? And so, yeah, it's to test them, yes. But if they weren't tested, they wouldn't know the Lord. That's why. That's why. So that we know His grace, we know His mercy, we know He's better. It's not that we guess He's better than the Baals and the Ashereth. We know because we've been tested.